All right, it's 1:30 in the morning, but we're going to do, at least I'm going to set up and begin a new edit in Premiere Pro. I'm so excited that I got OBS working. Should be better this time. The resolution is good. The audio should be better and hopefully in sync. Let me know in the chat, of course, if none of that is working well, and I'll fix it again. But I'm setting up a new video edit in Premiere Pro. It was shot on the Sony a6500 in 4K earlier in my studio here, my office. And I'm bringing that into Premiere Pro, which you are seeing. You can see me and you can see Premiere Pro. I haven't done a live edit before, so bear with me as I go through this. I just thought I would share. The chat is open. There's probably super chat if you want to, if you pitch in $1 or something, interrupt the edit. If you have a question, I'll answer that. I'll probably answer it anyways. If I see it, I'll answer it. I got so much going on the screen, I can't see everything, but I'll give it a shot. So live editing, I don't know how much I will edit, but right now, hopefully let's get some footage in, maybe talk about a couple different things about how to do that, and then maybe do a little, maybe color correct, because there's reasons I like to do that right up front. Color correct, maybe color grade. We'll look at that potentially. Should go to sleep. I'll do more live later. Maybe finish this project later, but we'll see how far we get. And maybe some audio work. So we'll check all of that out. As I'm losing my voice here at 1:30 in the morning here in California, the United States of America. You're probably watching. If you're watching live, you're probably international. So good to see you. But if you're watching later, let me know. There's 5 of you here. Chime in. I'm probably too tired to be doing live, but I got it working. Let's mess with it and see what's going on. Sean is back. What's up, Sean? Audio is synced and video looks great. Yes, so happy about that. Little celebration here. We're fine tuning this live thing. So, hey, I started a new series here on YouTube. It's called Behind the Edit. I launched the first video the other day. It's when I want to show you something, but then I wanted to start a new project here in Premiere Pro, as I mentioned, and I thought, well, why not try it in this live setup? And then I realized I'm doing a Behind the Edit live, so it's good timing. Let's get into this. Watching live from Australia, 6:30 p.m. Thanks, Russ. All right, so hopefully I'll see chats if they pop up, and especially if someone does a super chat, hopefully I see that. So feel free to interrupt with chats. It's going to be hard for me to 4:30 a.m. Oh man, you are early riser. Okay. Let me minimize OBS. All you should be seeing is my screen with Premiere, which you do. All right, I'm going to go. I have a new project, again, shot in 4K. Not that that matters, but it was on the Sony a6500. I haven't even imported the audio yet, but that's okay. I may have to do that here in real time because I'm going to need that audio because I did do dual system audio where I recorded audio separately from the camera. Just because in this case, because it was easier than setting up my wireless mic. I think it was easier. Anyways, it's good for the edit. It's good for behind the edit. Focus, focus, focus. Yeah, focus is hard, especially on a live stream. I just want to talk, but here we go. All right, so I've got Premiere Pro. This is Creative, the Creative Suite, I want to say Creative Commons. I see the CC and it's always Creative Commons. But Creative Cloud, I do pay for that. Every year I'm like, do I want to keep paying for this? But it's awesome. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to import some media. I'm going to go, I'm going to select all these, just really 2 clips here. I'm just going to import those into Premiere Pro. Now, what I did that you haven't seen or you didn't see here is I set up Premiere Pro to create proxies because I'm working in 4K and now you see automatically media coder. Oh, wait, maybe you don't see media encoder popping up. You don't. I'd have to add that. So media encoder, let me add another window capture. And let me do window capture 2. And then let's go to, it's cool because it actually is, you can't see this, but I'm selecting whatever I want on my desktop to capture. Now I'm looking for media encoder. which I'm not seeing immediately. It does say Creative Cloud item, so maybe that's it and it's not recognizing it. No, that's just some weird icon. So, all right, I won't go too far. I'm not seeing media encoder. There's a lot in here. I'm not going to worry about it. Basically, what's going on right now is that my media, let's hold on, don't do that. We want to cancel out of that. All right. So my media is being encoded. Let's take this little, I don't know what this is. We don't want, if you're seeing that little Creative Cloud, that was not what I wanted. So let's get rid of that. Oh, live. This is why edited is so nice, but live is fun. So I'm taking 4K and I'm making proxies, and Media Encoder, which is just another app, is doing that automatically for me. So it's doing that in the background. And then here in Premiere Pro, I will actually toggle over to a setting. Let's see if it's here. Well, let's see. I don't know that you can see it in the preview. I don't, oh, there. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It doesn't give me the option yet because I don't have any media in the actual sequence, I guess. But basically what I'll do is I'll toggle on the proxies. I'll edit with the proxies, which is just a more edit-friendly file, and it will help basically handle 4K video. So I've got these two files. We've got the primary, let's see, talking headshot. I believe that's what this is. And the computer is running live stream and doing all of this 4K and transcoding media. So we'll see. And ideally, I would be able to scrub through here. Let me see if I can hear. You know, I don't even know where the audio output is coming. Let's see if it's coming out through, because I've got so much audio to monitor with OBS and the live stream and now Premiere. And now Premiere, I might not be able to handle all this. This MacBook might not be able to handle it. I'm going to have to throw on some headphones here. Now I hear myself. Let's go to Premiere Pro and check the preferences for the audio hardware. And I guess I'll have it come out of it's coming out, this output is the Scarlett. All right, so let me see if I can hear what's coming out of here. Waiting, I see audio. Yes. It's just not handling. Okay, so I can at least hear what I'm editing. That's good. And let's see. Sean, what are you editing on? Currently, a MacBook Pro. A couple years old. But even with my giant iMac, which actually is 2011, it's old as well. I find proxies is just the best way with... It's just the best way with 4K. It has been for me. So I'm hoping that once these proxies are done, let me take a look. Media encoder is done. All right. So I'm just going to close media encoder, which you can't see because of the OBS stuff. And let me see if I can toggle on the proxy. So I'm just going to go to the button editor because I'm not seeing other buttons here. Actually, let's do this. I will throw down this first clip, and usually I would come in here, pick my endpoint, but the scrubbing is not, it's not handling it very well. One thing I can do is I can knock down the resolution to 1/8 here, and it's a tiny screen right now, and I can make these bigger if I want. It's so tiny that viewing even at 1/8 of the resolution is not going to, it's only going to help. It's not going to hurt at all. So as I listen back, I'm waiting for, shooting anything, there's going to be a ton of stumbles for me. And in fact, I shot this. Did I shoot this twice? Even finding the good part here is going to be tricky. Let me just find that for a second here. So what I need to do is set up OBS. I'm learning stuff here. Set up OBS so that you can hear the audio out of Premiere. And I wonder how you would do that. If it's hearing the Scarlett, I am outputting Premiere Pro to the Scarlett. I'm assuming you don't hear that. I don't think it's outputting the Scarlett. It's not like it's inputting. I'd have to input That'd be weird. Tell me if you hear this, which is the audio coming from Premiere Pro. I do not think so. All right, so you can't hear it. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Would you be able to make a video on just how to make proxies and how to use them correctly? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, these days, it's pretty easy because Final Cut and Premiere Pro both do it for you automatically. I mean, I literally just pick some random setting. I'd have to go in and look at what that is. I probably got it from a YouTube video or something, and it works great. I mean, it's super simple. It just, these systems are so smart these days. They do a lot of stuff for you. You do not hear Premiere. Yeah, I'll have to, I hate to dive into, let me see really quick here. I've got sources in OBS, audio input capture. Yeah. I don't want to, really don't want to mess anything. Device. Yeah, you know, too bad you can't just select the device and have it capture from the computer the way like screen capture software does. Oh, audio input capture. Now I got two things going on, so who knows what's going on in the live stream. I gotta get rid of that though. I could loop the audio coming out of the Scarlett. Let me get rid of that second audio capture. I could loop the audio coming out of the Scarlett, what I'm hearing, loop it back in, and it should be okay. In theory. In theory, it should be okay. Oh, you got an echo there? Yeah, and proxies is not an elaborate process anymore. It used to be a lot worse. I did used to make proxies back in the day, and you had to open up separate apps, and it was a lot worse. Hopefully the echo is gone. I took away that other audio capture device, and I won't even bother with that right now. But let me see. Hopefully the audio is coming out of both sides for you. It's a little lopsided in my ears. You know what? I'm gonna switch that to mono on my what I'm hearing. I'm switching back to mono. Okay, so that's better. Yep, you're all good now. Awesome. Echo is gone. Sweet. We don't need that. All right, so I'm going back into Premiere. And what I'm looking for, unfortunately, I shot the intro out of order. But let's just pretend that this clip here is exactly what I want. And for me, I mean, a lot of times I would pick an in and out point here in the preview here. I would click I for in, and then my out I would just set as O. And if I just wanted to grab the video without the audio, I could do that here. If I wanted just the audio, and these things I do all the time. With B-roll, I'm always grabbing just the video and not the audio in a lot of cases. But here, I'm just going to I can grab it from, the bin over here, or I can grab it right here. And since this is the first piece of media, when I drop it here, it's going to create my sequence based on the way it was shot. So again, it was shot in 4K. All right, and so now it gives me a sequence. I'm going to make a few adjustments just so I have a better view here. I'm going to make these tracks a little bigger. And now you can see I turned this reference monitor into my scopes. It's already color balanced because hopefully you shoot properly white balanced, even though I always find that takes correction. Color correction is always something you're going to end up doing. A little bit, probably. So as I look, so I'm covering up. Let me move in OBS here. Let me move what you're seeing of me. I'll move that into a different corner. And hopefully these behind the edits live will get smoother someday. Live is tough. I'm great at live with the podcast, but this is a lot trickier. There's a lot more going on with video, or video where you're demonstrating other video. All right, so and then I've got, the program monitor over here. So what is the output of the final output? So I just make these scopes a lot smaller. I don't need them that big, and the preview over here doesn't need to be that big either. So now I get a better resolution In the screen real estate that I have to work with right now, this works better. So right off the bat, I've got my video file, and you can see it definitely has, while it's white balanced based on the scopes, these are pretty even. I'm definitely going to want to bring it up, right? I'm not hitting 100 here at the top, and I'm not even down here at the bottom. So we will increase the contrast and do some color grading. But first, I would start with this clip, and I would start with color correction. But one of those things, what I like to do, here's what I really like to do. Outside of organization, so I would create bins. And so, for example, there's a bin, I right click and I get a bin, and I'm going to make this first bin basically talking head. For me, this is a lot of what I have. I'm going to place my 2 main talking head clips into this bin, and I'll know where those are. Now, what I would do normally is have a template that I would import, like a YouTube template, and it has all this stuff in it already. I'm just making it from scratch for you, but normally I would have all these bins set up, music, sound effects, all these things. So I know I'm going to have separate audio, so I'd create another bin for dialogue, whatever you want to call it. That's going to have my second, the audio that I recorded separately. So the second source audio. So one thing I'm also going to create here is an adjustment layer. This is how I like to do color correction. Well, and color grading probably actually is more accurate. So an adjustment layer is a layer I can work on and put my effects on and just put it over the top of my video. And this is hugely beneficial. So I don't know why that is so tiny. Let me zoom in here to the timeline. So little Command plus, I'm just going to drag my adjustment layer here to the length of my video. And now I have this layer up here, which right now is doing nothing because it's blank. There's just nothing going on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some color grading tools onto this adjustment layer. And what it allows me to do is make changes above, and it basically anything below it. It applies to anything below it, which is, in my case, is going to be the primary video. And I can make those changes instead of making those changes directly on my clip. And after you start cutting things up and you want to make a change, if you've cut up your video and you've done your color correction and your color grading on the clip itself, and you make one change and you'll make 50, 20, whatever, you'll make a ton of cuts, right? You're going to have to go to every single one of those clips and redo it, even with the command, paste, all that stuff. You could do that. Adjustment layer, you just change the adjustment layer and every clip is changed, regardless of your cuts. That's the key with that. That's why I love that. So let me check out the chat. You can't see your mouse cursor, just FYI. That's interesting. That's good to know that you can't see the cursor. So random things. That sucks. How would you get that in OBS? Let me see. Let me look at my sources really quick. Image. Let's see if it's in here. Scene. I don't quickly see where I could show my mouse, but we are really working out the kinks here. So thank you for that. I will add that to the notes to figure out, Sean, how to get the cursor to show. It's because I guess if I showed my whole screen, a desktop, you would see it, which I certainly could do, because it does allow you to pick just a certain piece of software, which is really cool. But I'll have to figure that one out. That's a great one. I'm not seeing it immediately. We got text, but that's just to put text. We got scene. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully it's not too horrible. That sucks because I do use my cursor to point out things. There's a shortcut to split the clip in Vegas. Yeah, you could split. There's shortcuts like crazy, right? And I even set up my keyboard differently than anyone else, which is a double-edged sword. Because if I set up a custom keyboard, then I step onto someone else's machine, then it's not set up the way I am. So it is kind of good to learn the native tools, but there are certain things I like. There are things for me that are holdovers from Final Cut, the old Final Cut. where I don't want to hit R for razor, I want to hit B for blade. What's cool in Premiere, you can actually just switch the Final Cut keyboard. I've tried not to do that. I used to do that. But if I use display capture instead of window capture, it'll give you a checkbox option to show cursor. All right, let me, let's see. Display capture. Does it say display capture? It does say display capture. Thank you, Sean. Sean's you're going to have to hang out all the time here, Sean. Hopefully the audio is loud enough for everyone. Okay, so I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff. Show cursor. Wow, I'm seeing a lot. You'd see everything I see, which is, that's difficult. Display. Wow, too bad they don't crop to window, and then you can select my window, right? So, hey, so there you go. Right, that would be the way to do it, I think, if I find Premiere here. And I don't know. Let's see, desktop cursor. Interesting with cursor. Oh, I don't think you want that. Oh, that's a super zoomed in view. Show windows with empty names. Okay, I don't think I want that. I don't see YouTube. I don't want that. I don't see Premiere, unfortunately, because maybe because I'm using it already, or I have another one that's sort of capturing that. You can always extend the picture so it extends past the display. I know, moving those crops around is always such a pain. All right. Let me do that. No, you guys aren't seeing all this stuff. Maybe you are. Yeah, maybe. So let me take the video capture device, the window capture. Let me take that off because you guys are seeing the desktop now. So you guys don't need to, that's difficult. I guess I have to pop out my chat here because I don't want you guys don't want to see like looping video. So let's pop out the chat. That's the trick, is to not cover the chat or I won't be able to see chat. Let me see if I can make that as narrow as possible. This is the boring stuff you don't want to see. There's OBS. It's all kinds of looping. I will minimize OBS. Let me see. I need to see that I'm seeing what I want. It's hard to see what I'm seeing in OBS. I'm not sure where my video went. Ah, here we go. I got to make that the top thing. Okay. All right. I'm just going to like open this up. I'm going to lose chat. All right. Not sure what everyone sees here, but now you're seeing everything. You should be seeing the cursor. All right, we'll do this. This should work. You guys let me know. It's the delay makes it tough because then I'll wait and I'll see. You guys should just see Premiere and maybe my video because I can't see what OBS is seeing. All right, I'll wait for some confirmation, but then I'll move through this stuff here. So as I was saying, adjustment layers and color corrections. And the thing is, like, it's kind of naked, showing people how you edit because, man, you will catch a lot of stuff online. People say you're doing that wrong. I mean, I've edited in rooms with other editors, and everyone has their own systems. And people say, why are you doing it that way? That's ridiculous. And you can learn that way, but it's tough. So it feels a little, because I know my process is both my own and learned. And yeah, it's not always pretty. Literally the sausage being made. Okay, it's not literal sausage. It might look that way. Okay, here's the toggle proxies. All right. I don't see any confirmation you guys are seeing everything. All right. Your train is coming. I'll watch the replay. All right, thanks, man. Sean, you're going to have to tell me if you are seeing what you need to be seeing. My video and Premiere and cursor. But all right, let's go. Here's the toggle proxy. So proxies is not on. So if I played this right now, the machine would struggle. It's handling it, but that'll build up, especially when you start adding effects and stuff. So toggle the proxies, that's on now. So Proxies is on, and I only have it at an 1/8 over here of resolution, and I can see it degrade when I hit play. That's okay. I could go to a 4th, and a 4th would probably look really good, and hopefully the machine can handle that. But it's good to know you have those options to make things change that make it more friendly for your machine. All right, Portugal here. Nice job. Thanks, Gabriel. I think it's Gabriel. Hopefully I'm saying that right. All right, so let me see. I don't bore you with, I recorded on this, the Tascam DR60D. I put a lav mic into that. I have a better recorder in terms of size for what I would normally do, like sitting there, talking head, having the recorder on me, the Edirol, but there's some weird interference issue in here. So anyways, I use this. Hopefully I don't have this crazy RF weird issue that I have. Hopefully on this card here, we don't have that. Hopefully the DR60D is going to help us with that. It's really hard not to see yourself, but I guess that's the joke for the guy who shoots on the 6500. So this MacBook is nice because it still has things like USB and Thunderbolt and SD card readers. How novel. So I'm going to put in the SD card reader, and I might as well just bring in my audio that I recorded. There's DR60D. I'll bring up another. Let's try to find, let's see, desktop. Let's go to Pod Summit. Now, this is a thing I recorded for a podcast conference. It's brand new in Canada, coming up in a few weeks. So Ernest, was nice enough to ask me to ask a couple questions, and I submitted. I'm submitting a video to him, and of course I've got to edit that and make it look good. And of course I recorded it all chopped up. So I got to put it back together. But the audio recorded probably these two. This is why it helps to put date stamps on your recorders and everything. So you definitely, ideally, I wouldn't leave all this garbage on here, but that's a whole other issue in and of itself. So 7/11. So that date is not accurate, but I know that this was today. And in fact, if I had doubts, I would just hit the space bar, preview it. And that's what I want to be hearing. So I know I had to stop the camera because the wonderful Sony a6500's batteries don't last for any time at all. And even when you start hitting record, when you press record and you're in front of the camera and you had 43% left and you're halfway through your sentence and it cuts out, put your camera in airplane mode. They have that, so it's not burning up Wi-Fi or anything else. Do everything you can to maximize your battery. Run off a USB brick. All right, so I'm bringing over these. I'm going to bring these audio files into my just bulk catch for this project, which I'm always going to put everything in its own folder. And ideally, I would break down this folder as well, audio, talking head, and stuff like that. But this is a really small project. All right, so in this case, I do have the dialogue bin that I created here. So I'm going to take those two pieces of dialogue, and I am going to just drag them and drop them into the dialogue bin. And there they are, already in Premiere Pro, and that's real nice. Super simple. Love it. I should have turned off the create proxies because I don't need a proxy for my audio. That sucked, but that's going to go really fast. So here's the Adobe encoder. So now that you're seeing everything, and I wish I had another screen that you didn't see, which I could do because my iMac, whoops, sorry about that. Let me look at OBS just to see what everyone's seeing. Yep, you are seeing the media encoder. And of course, it's already done with those because they're just WAV files super fast. So I'll quit media encoder. And I'm not going to bring in B-roll. I'm not going to bring anything else. So if I wanted, I would come up here and by project settings, I would go over here to the ingest settings. And this is where you would set up proxies. So you can see here in the ingest, general, scratch disk, ingest. I'm going to uncheck the proxies. But check this out. I mean, I think Sean was asking about it. I could add an ingest see here, like create proxies, and then you come right here, and I've got apparently 1024 by 540 Apple ProRes 422 proxy. You can select anything you want. I think this is the top, and then you go down Cineform and H.264. Any of these would work, and some of these might work better for your system because like the H.264, 1024 540 might be an easier file for your computer to handle. The ProRes might be easier. You know, whatever it is for your thing, you can try different ones. I think I've used them all. Apparently it's on ProRes today. That's fine. Works great. The Cineform GoPro worked fine too. I think that's what I originally tried. So that's how I'd set up my proxies. And then when I bring something in, it just launches Media Encoder and does its thing. I toggle on and off the proxies here. I don't even think I have to toggle off the proxies when I export. Like, it's smart enough to know you don't want to export the proxy. Not 100% sure on that one. I would toggle off the proxy just in case that was the situation. So that's how I create proxies. Did I actually uncheck that? Because that's why I actually wanted to go over here. Ingest settings. I'm going to unclick create proxies and click OK because I actually don't want that to happen. So now I've got in my audio. Now I've got the primary audio. This was a Rode VideoMic Pro on top of the 6500. And I was no more than, you're seeing this shot here, I'm no more than, I don't know, 4 feet from the camera maybe. Far enough away where I can't reach the camera, but close enough to get good scratch audio, reference audio. You always want to have that audio rolling on the recorder so that you can sync in post. And because I didn't actually put in this whole thing, I want the whole clip. So I'm just, I brought it in with the in and out point, but obviously the rest of it was still there. And you can see here, and I'm about to clap, there's my sync points. So let's sync up the first piece of audio with this first piece of video. And I know these two are in order. When I stopped the video, or when the video stopped on me, I stopped the recorder because I know this, I'm going to have to do this. And yes, there are automatic ways to do this. On a short project like this, I find it as easy or fast to do it manually. So I'm just going to bring in this piece of recorded audio. I'm going to increase the track size so I can actually see it. And I'm going to minimize, or I'm going to zoom out, and you can see where the clapping happens. And I almost started at the same time, but not quite. So here's going to be a trick, or not well, it is going to be a trick. But after I line this up, I'm going to take a look at the chat. But let's zoom in here, and you want to zoom in because you want to be able to get that fine detail and line them up perfectly. And I think that's lining up. It's nice to do a few because I can tell where the first one is and the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see they match up. And in fact, it almost looks like I got it. I wish you guys could hear this because this is an important part. Listening to this part is important, but it's all right. Okay, I think I might have got it right there, which is just ridiculous to get it that fast. But look at that. I mean, I'm zooming in super far to my timeline. One thing I was going to show you, most of the time when I'm lining this up like this, you are just off like a couple frames or something, right? Like that. No, that's actually on. It's working really well. And you'll go back and forth like that, and you can't quite line it up. And when that happens, you can actually make Premiere, in this case, if you come over here, this little wrench, and you just hit show audio time units, you'll have ultra fine control of slipping this audio just like hundreds. Look at that. I mean, like thousands. What is that? I mean, you can really get fine control. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to not be able to get it on the exact spot that you want. That's how you do that. So the audio is lined up. And one way you would know when you're listening to it, you'll hear an echo or what will sound like reverb when you're really close. Basically, when the two pieces of audio cancel each other out, that's when you know you've nailed it. That's one way to know via audio. And then, of course, lining it up visually is another way. So that audio is lined up. At that point, I can trim off some of this. So I can hit, so in my case, I have B for blade. And then if I hit the shift, I can just cut across all of this stuff. So I'd make a blade cut and I would just get rid of that garbage because in theory, this is where it starts, even though it's not where it starts. I mean, that's the first try. Then I like to right click, and ripple delete is such a beauty of a feature that I've got all this space here, right? Like I don't need all this up front because this is going to be the open. There's no open there like I normally would have. Ripple delete is just going to smash it all the way to the next point, which in our case is the very beginning. And I just would take the audio from the reference track and I could mute that track. I could do that. I'm going to make sure that it can't be played, and I'm just going to click and drag right here in the audio itself, and I'm going to take it down to infinity of dB. Excuse me. And now that is gone. And the audio gets so much better. You can't hear it, but now I have, you can hear all the reverb and all the room tone from being not right next to the microphone. Well, now this microphone, the audio that I want to use, is coming through this lav mic, and it sounds fantastic. Now, it's not at the levels that I'm going to want it at, but it's synced. Yep, it's going good. It looks nice and synced. Hopefully, so does the OBS, is nice and synced still. I have a heater running, so there's a lot of noise going on. I think I have two heaters. There's a wall, little mini split, and there's a plugged into the wall, a portable heater. I'm a wimp. I'm in California, but California does get cold. All right. So Final Cut's cool, is always saving for you. Premiere, you can set it up to auto save, but Command S is a thing I live on. I always have. I'm always hitting Command S, and that's what you get. You save the project. So always be saving. You're going live early. Yes, it is early. I should be asleep. It's 2 a.m. Finally figured out how to solve a couple issues that I was having with OBS. All right, so what is Sean up to? If he's still here, seems like showing the cursor using window capture won't work on Macs. Are you guys not seeing the cursor for future considerations? Awesome. I've never seen that. I don't know which part that was. This is the hard part. Normally live chat Q&A is great because I can just see it coming in and answer in real time. Doing a live edit, it's hard to know what's going on in chat, but all right. And hopefully, I'm assuming there's no super chat. Like that super chat is like throwing $1, and I guess here's the weird thing about super chat. Like if you throw in $1, it highlights, it says so-and-so gave $1 and they have their question. I guess in theory, you're supposed to answer that in a priority order. That's what I would do. That's what I did earlier today. But you don't have to, right? I mean, they can't enforce that. So I think it's more like, here's $1 for the cool stuff you're doing, I guess, maybe. But yeah, you want to answer. It should be a feature where maybe that's more like a Patreon reward. Like I say, hey, if you pitch in, I'll answer your question first. I don't know. Not quite sure what it's all about yet. But yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's a button where if someone asks a question and they've given a super chat and you say, I can't answer that, can you just like give the $1, the $2, whatever, can you give it right back? That's an interesting question. So awesome. Yeah, and I feel like this is not quite my process because I'm trying to, I would be much faster than this, and it may be different. And again, like I said, I'd have templates and all that stuff. But it's fun to walk through it here. This is a lot of fun, actually. Behind the edit. Subscribe. Now it's now a video series and a live series. This live stuff is pretty fun. And it's content for YouTube. It takes so long to put together a YouTube video, and this is immediate, right? I got to take the one off from today because it just looks bad. But all right, so audio is synced. Now here's some things. With the adjustment layer here that I talked about where I'm going to do some color correction and color grading. And I'm sorry, I'm pulling up OBS here. And I talked about how it's important to do stuff while stuff is still intact. Now, sometimes I like to do the color correction on the actual primary file because that, in theory, is you're going to get the color, and it should not change, but I'm not a colorist, not at all. So I feel like I'm always tweaking. So I'd prefer to put that on adjustment layer. Now I could do another adjustment layer just for color correction and color grading, but the way I'm going to handle color grading, it's all built in there. So let's look at that. I would normally do the audio first, but what I'm going to do for the audio is these days what I'm doing is I'm round tripping to Audition. So in this case, I've highlighted the audio that I want because I want to post-process this audio for sure. And I could do that up here in Premiere. Has decent, here's the audio track mixer. And as you can see, as I play it here, I can make this window bigger. And there's your, and you have controls in here. I can toggle this down and you can get some effects and you can add some stuff that you're going to find, a lot of stuff you're going to find in Audition. I could work right in here, but I prefer to work in Audition when I want to really work with audio. It's just a little easier. It's faster. It's a better interface. But, you know, I might come over here and on like, let me look here. Like on the master track, I might put on something like, you know, here's the thing. The limiters here suck. But in theory, I won't need a limiter once I post-process. But I might put on something here like this multi-band, which you can see here. I'd bring this up. And I wouldn't use it for the compression. I would bypass all this stuff. I just want this limiter, and you got to watch out because the default makes the audio, boost the audio by a ton. And it's a weird limiter. But, you know, I could put, you know, I don't want it to peak here. Whatever. So I could put a little safety there on the output. But again, I'm going to take this audio. I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit this clip in Audition. And I'll probably do that here as well. But let's deal still with the video clip. And the adjustment layer. So what I like to do right now, these Lumetri, people say it differently. I'm not sure how it's said, but I'm going to go to the Lumetri, which Premiere Pro has really built in over the years. Really cool stuff. And I guess it's all this Lumetri stuff now, as opposed to Speed Grade, which they still have, but it doesn't look like that they are really going with that anymore. NAB is like, what, next week or something? We're going to see some stuff, hopefully. But I just go to the film stocks here, and one fun thing you can do, now that's a great still frame. There's at least my face. And I don't know how bright, hopefully it's bright enough for you. Let me turn up my brightness so I can actually see what I'm looking at, besides the light that's shining in my face. Gotta have lighting. I'm gonna pick any of these, really. Now, here's the thing. This was shot in Picture Profile 4, which is, I guess, Rec 709 with a faithful-like tone to it. I just call it faithful. It's reminiscent of the faithful on Canon. Anyone who knows color science is probably yelling at me right now and saying not true. It's close enough for me. And I did a video on what those are called. And I guess really technically it's not called faithful. It's Rec 709 with in the spirit of faithful, a faithful like. I don't know. Sony is very cryptic. That's why I did that video. But I shot it. So it's not even close to the flattest. It's not an S-Log. It's not even the Cine 1 or Cine 2. It's not a very flat profile, but it's not that unflat either. So using a LUT. And it's so funny because in Premiere, so let me put on this. I'm going to take this Fuji Eterna, whatever. Let's just double click. Put that on the adjustment layer, and you may or may not have seen that change. We got like a real sort of faded brownish look here. But the whole point of this is that now I can come into my effects controls here in the preview and select, let's see, there we go. So let's get rid of all this motion. All this stuff is good. So there's my Lumetri that I just added on. And we have basic corrections. So here's where I can do some color correction. So I can do it right here in this Lumetri option in the basic corrections. So exposure, I'm going to tweak things like exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, blacks, all that stuff. And we're going to use the scopes to help us with some of that. Again, I'm not a colorist at all. But then we have the creative option here. And this is where you can, it's cool because the one you're seeing now, which is not what I'm going to use, you can dial that in, the intensity. So you can see, maybe you can tell as I dial it, you can see the scopes moving, but you can see in the program that, well, it's changing in live, the color grade, right? That color grade being the stylistic color you want, the color correction being proper color balance, levels and all that kind of stuff, exposure. So that's nice. You can really just sort of layer this on the way you want. And then I also live on Command Z, which is undos, undo, undo, undo. And then there's sometimes I do some secondary color here where I can isolate one color. But anyways, I'm not getting into that right now. So this isn't a really flat profile, as I was saying. But here in the basic correction, you can see input LUT. So they also have several different LUTs here. And I actually have downloaded a couple. I don't know if they're LUTs. No, they're not. Christian Grob is based in Germany. He has his own that I'm enjoying using. And it's a creative style. It's not a LUT. But these LUTs are pretty harsh. You'll see that if you put that on, look at that. I mean, like, what does that say? That's for an Alexa, like extremely flat picture profile, right? And I mean, if I'm shooting log, S-log, that might look good, but you can see it's dramatic. And guess what? I don't have control over I don't have control over the intensity the way that I did here. My voice is going to poop. I don't have this intensity control like I have in the creative section, which sucks, right? So I'm going to take that back to 100. So we'll get back out of there. So if I applied a LUT that had a flat profile, this isn't working. Let's try another LUT. You're like, yeah, that's not working at all. Let's just try another one. And a lot of times I'm just going to go through these and see. But you can see none of these. These all suck for my footage, especially this Faithful. I mean, we baked in some colors here, so it's an extra bad example. Look at that. Phantom. So let's pretend that I like that. I can't even do that. Let's pretend I like that. But I don't want so much of that. Well, we've got our adjustment layer. So hallelujah. We've got an adjustment layer. And in that case, since I'm on the actual adjustment layer, there's the clip, there's the adjustment layer, I would come up to the opacity section and I would simply control the opacity of the whole layer. This is the power of also having an adjustment layer. If I had done that on the clip itself, then I'd be limited by the controls that Lumetri is giving me. But instead, I've got my own intensity slider. I can adjust the opacity of this whole layer. And this is why I'd put a LUT on probably its own adjustment layer. And you can do this with color correction as well. So something to consider, but I'm going to do it all in the same. I'm not going to use a LUT, but you can see how things got a lot better. Well, I'm down at 7%, but as I come up through about 40%, even that's not working for this shot. It's because the Faithful Rec 709, whatever, because that profile bakes in a warmer reddish skin tone. That's why it's not working here. But so in this case, I'm not going to use a LUT, but that's how you could use a LUT and control the intensity of said LUT. So I'm going to reset this. I click the box. I'm just going to type in 100. That's the fastest way to get to that one. I'm going to leave the opacity. I'm going back to Lumetri. I'm going to remove that LUT. Now we're back to, well, we still have the creative style. And that's not the creative style that I actually want to use. So as I look at creative styles here, I can go back to none, and now we're back to just the raw image. Let me make sure. Let's see what's going on in chat. Sean, you have Christian's LUT. Also, nice. Yeah, he has cool profiles. I'm enjoying it for sure. And his profile is, at least the one, his first one he made. It's for Cine style, Cine 1, Cine 2. And I like shooting those. S-Log, man, I just haven't... S-Log is tough. It's really tough. And not being a colorist, it's really tough to work in S-Log. And it's mixed results. I like it in low light. It's pretty awesome. But Cine 4, it's not as extreme. So in this case, I shot the PP4 to bake in a little color, because this video is just me sitting there talking, answering a couple questions. It's no more than 5 minutes long. So that's his new one. Okay, cool. S-Log for me is an accident waiting to happen. Yeah, I do use it, and I've gotten some really cool results in low light. But you know, that's the beauty of the Sony series is they give you so much, and the other side of that is there's a lot to learn and figure out, whereas sometimes less options is better. But Canon doesn't have a flat profile. Yeah, there's CineStyle or the Technicolor or whatever. I never used that. I had Raysway, my own profile, and it was just a version of Pro Lost Flat that I dialed into the way I liked it. And Brazil, what's up? Thank you. All right. So I've done nothing for color grading. I've pulled off what I did. A little color correction. Actually, the color correction doesn't need to be corrected. I could take my white balance selector here. Now, ideally, you'd put out like a reference card so that I could then click on it. I could mess around and click white stuff in the scene, and that shifted green, so I would Command Z that. You know, ideally, it'd be something up white here for me. And if I clicked on the back white there, that must be where it's pulling its... I was in auto white balance here because I was only seriously sitting down for like 4 minutes. It's not something I would normally do, but I knew things weren't going to change. But sometimes I click around and see what it gives me just to mess around. And of course I could do manual, and you can see how everything is shifting. If I want to go a little colder, a little warmer... Actually, that little warmer doesn't look half bad. But it starts to throw the back wall, which that green tape doesn't help, but it starts to give me that Sony green shift that I don't really want. So in this case, I think the color balance is fine. I may find out later it's not, but I would probably move down here to exposure. Now, a little goes a huge way in this. In fact, I can't even just do the sort of hover over and click side to side because it's too extreme, or click it and use the arrow keys, which it jumps too big. Actually, that's fine. But normally I'd have to do like a 0.5, something like that. Actually, that looks really good. I'm up here. It looks like maybe it could go all the way to 1 before my highlights. Yeah, I mean, technically I'm not blown out here. I've got room even. And this is the tricky part, because on my screen it looks pretty tough. But however, the blacks here, the darks, I'm going to bring those down. So I'm going to just toggle over and come down. You can see now I'm moving down towards the 0 down the bottom there. Now, when they say crush, there's where I'm crushing. I'm losing detail in the darks there. It's way too much. So I would watch this, the scopes. I would use the scopes, but then I would use my eye as well. So I know that I'm not crushed. But do I want that look? I don't. I want a little less contrast. And so I'm just going to pull it back up a little bit here. And my highlights, I'm going to bring down the highlights, even though I'm not peaking, just a little bit. It's actually probably a lot, but that's fine. And contrast, shadows, everything's looking good. I'm opened up here, like exposed well. I might bring up the shadows. You can see I can come down the shadows, which might actually look better. Now this is where we're talking subjectivity here, but I'm going to bring up everything to a really nice even exposure. Nothing is overexposed, and there's a good dynamic range, a good contrast between the highs, the brights and the darks. And now I can mess around with my actual styling of it. You know, I should leave it like this. This is my problem. I get into color grading and I do stuff and I go too far. I should just leave it natural, but that's no fun. So I would come down here to, but go out of the basic correction, which I would just close it so it's not there. You know, one thing I do like, adding a curve, just a little S curve. You always hear about that, but it does a little down on the darks and a little slight up on the, that always looks pretty good. And that always does something that I don't quite seem to be able to do with just sliders. So a little S curve for me usually works pretty well when it comes to exposure. And the creative section, again, I don't have Christian's pulled up. It's not loaded on this computer. It's on my now dead, pretty much dead iMac. Obviously, it's on a Time Machine backup, so I have it and I could download it again. The funny thing is I have it in a previous project, so I could bring it over, but that's okay. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take a look at some of the looks that we have baked in here to Lumetri, and a lot of this stuff I'm just not going to use it. I do like to look at these film options. Now, here's a crazy thing that Premiere doesn't let me do. I want to see all of these every time. The same goes with fonts almost every time. I love to select this, and I should ideally be able to just hit my down arrow and go through it, right? Each one. No, you can't do that. Stupid. I can do it by scrolling with the cursor, right? But it's so sensitive that it's not worth it. So let me try to get a freeze frame here where I don't look absolutely horrible. Now, obviously, the one I chose is too much. And I could use the whites of my eyes. There you go. All right, I'll just leave it there. This Fuji Eterna, not the one. This is that brown one. You know what? Not so much. I kind of like a little of that faded look. I know it's in right now. I do enjoy it. Sort of has a Sony look to it. So I'm just going to check out a couple of these, find one that I might like. No, I don't dislike that. I don't know if that's the way you want to go. That's cool. Obviously, it's way too contrasty. I can bring down the intensity here. And if I wanted a natural look, that's not bad. My skin tone is a little red. That's probably how my skin looks. Red blotchiness. That's not bad. It's kind of I mean, maybe I should add like a vignette or something to separate from the background a little bit more, but I'm bringing that back to the original. It's hard for me to get away from some of these that have that more faded look. Now, these obviously have a lot of that's a lot of different color there, or big difference in saturation. Some of these here in the middle, these Gold Rush HDR, that might have an interesting dialed down. That gives you a little that sort of orange teal look. That is Mr. Michael Bay or whatever. Basically, motion pictures. So I'm just checking out a couple of these others. Super boring here. Probably shouldn't do this part. Clean Kodak, high dynamic range and low dynamic range. Those two sometimes work out. But anyways, there's a lot of options in here. That does not work out. I'm not even sure where I landed there, where I thought was, there's that faded, but it's this picture profile. And that's the thing that's the thing you have to work out. Like, trying different picture profiles and then seeing how that works in post-production and finding what you really like. So this one is not grading the way that normally I would like it. So I'd probably would rather shoot in like PP5, Cine 1 or Cine 2. But let me try to get back to a place here that I don't hate. And I probably would use Christian Grab. I probably would use his color. But I'm going to go with this just for now. It's fine. And dial it down. I can do a little sharpening in here. From what I know, the unsharp mask for sharpening is the best. Sony seems pretty sharp, and I could dial that down. Probably need to dial that down more. I don't really ever feel like I need to add sharpening to at least the A6500, but it's probably the same for the other A series cameras. But that's how I'm going to handle color grading for the most part. You can jump into special, you can change the whole interface to be set up for editing or audio or color correction, color grading. I rarely do that. It's kind of the same stuff, but just a little more friendly in terms of the sliders and stuff and the different views. I don't go into that too often. I usually can get stuff done here. Now, as I said, the face is red, and that is the picture profile. I mean, I might come down here into like the HSL secondaries, like select the red. It's interesting they have a denoise in here. I could take the, I could change the color temperature. I could change, sometimes pulling out some saturation. That's obviously way too much. Just a little saturation. If I pull that out, it's going to make my skin come back to something a little bit more normal. So there's pretty much where it was shot at. If I just pull down here to about 93, there you go. I look like I got some sun, but I look human. So I think that's pretty much that PP4 picture profile. And I have a vignette option down here. Now, we could, let's see. It could dial in a little. No, that's obviously, wait. I mean, vignettes are tricky. Like, if I put a tad, I'm talking just a tad of vignetting here. Minus, look at that. Just that minus 1.5. I mean, it is separating that background, but it has a cheesy look if it's not done. So I might bring up the vignette darker so that I can see the midpoint easier and control, like, see as it's coming in here, really control where it's landing like that. The corners, just the corners there. And I would definitely feather that a lot more. And then I would come down, not so intense. So you can see 0.5 is not doing much. Just, or wait, I'm sorry. 0.5 plus and then 0.5 negative. It definitely pops in there. So I can easily just toggle on and off via the active and see what I did. And there you go. That's how it was shot, which has a sort of natural vignette because over here on the right-hand side of the frame, it's not filled. And the composition on this might not be great. I probably should have been sitting dead set in the middle because I'm talking right to camera. That's obviously a personal decision as well. And with 4K, I can really do that. I could edit. What I think I like to do, I published in recently, is edit 4K in a 2.5K timeline, so 2560 by 1440. And then I can play with resolution a little bit. So I could put myself in the center, especially if you use just a 1080 timeline. Then I have all kinds of recomposition options. That's fun too. So that's a real benefit of 4K outside of just resolution. But I have no problem, and I do it all the time, going to the motion section here, and I have no problem bumping this up to, like, watch this. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm on the adjustment layer. Let's not do that. Click the video layer. I'd be totally cool with going up to 108, 110, 115. I'm at 112 there. And I scaled up 112, 112%. And that gives me a little bit, see, I can reposition, but not much at 112. But I can move myself right and then down. If I wanted to try to recompose at all, I could do that, but I don't want to do that. So good old Command Z will get us back to normal. There we go. I'm completely fine with that right there. Save. Command S, save, please. All right, so that's, I will probably come back later and ruin this by doing too much color grading and seeing what else I can do. I definitely want to go back and add Christian's LUT and check that out. And after that, I would work on the audio because this is another section where, man, at least for me, I haven't found a way to do it really well yet where I mean, you could do it track based, and that's probably one reason why working in the audio mixer inside here, this is going to be based on, you're going to put this effect on a track. And if I cut this up, it wouldn't matter. But if I wanted to cut this up and then work in Audition, it's a newer workflow for me. I haven't really, it's harder to do. You can't just go back and tweak things. Anyways, hard to explain, but that may be one reason to work in the tracks here. But what I would do is I would just work on, before I start making my cuts, I want to do my color correction, color grading, and my audio post-production. I wish there was a Leica look. Oh man, someone shoots on a Leica. There's a dude that shoots on a Leica on YouTube. I guarantee you've seen his, that stuff is beautiful. Man, goodness, it looks so good. Doug, I don't know what I'm doing up at 2:30 in the morning. I got to go to work tomorrow. It's not like my daughter is going to wake up any differently than normal. Definitely earlier than normal because I'm up here. This is normal for me, but I got OBS working to do this, and I was too excited. I had to start the stream, which I know was a bad idea. Would you say to overexpose by 0.5, one stop, then darken the shadows in post so you don't lose detail and create unnecessary noise? Yeah, that one's always an interesting one as well. With the Sony, such good dynamic range, you can push it a little bit, and especially with S-Log, you have to overexpose. That's where that also gets weird, and you can run the real-time LUT so you can see what's going on. Yeah, I like to push it a little bit, especially in a controlled environment, and then come back down, because definitely messing up the exposure and underexposing will cause more noise. It's really tough. And you can see in this scene here, you know, there are spots here that could easily blow out. Side of my face, computer back here. There's what, you know, so it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, I would definitely run towards the well exposed to bright as opposed to underexposed, or even what you think might be right on. It's nice to push a little bit if your camera can handle it, because it does seem to be cleaner. And it's funny how S-Log seems like the more you push it, almost the cleaner it gets. So that's why it's hard to avoid S-Log sometimes, especially in low light. So audio, I guess, you know, there's no B-roll in this or anything, and I won't even get into making cuts and all that stuff. I would definitely find the points. And since you can't hear it here on this live stream, I need to work on that. I'm not going to work on all the cuts. And sweetening the audio is probably not. Let me run through that really quick. You can't hear it, so you won't hear the changes, but I can definitely show you some stuff. Still fiddling with your 6500. I think we'll be fiddling with our 6500s the whole time we have them. It's like golf. I don't think you'll ever perfect it. I don't know. The red giant denoiser. Yeah, that's nice. Neat video. I want to get that one because I hear that's just really good. But at this point, I don't find myself needing a denoiser. At the time with the 60D, I needed it, but the Sony, I mean, there's almost no situation where you, I don't know. If it's a lot of extra work that I'm not sure is worth it at this point, but it's nice that those options are out there for sure. All right, we've got some audio here. As I said, I'm going to take this in Audition because I want to do some very specific things to it. Edit clip. I right-click Edit clip in Audition. That's going to bring up Adobe Audition. It's going to render and replace. That's basically what I'm going to do in Audition. It's going to port it right back over, and it replaces it with another file. So I'm not messing up that file. I don't think so. Like non-destructively here. And let's see. So you, let me pull up. You're seeing Audition. You still see me. Let me resize Audition here so we can see it a little better. It's a massive window at the moment. All right, that's a little more live stream friendly. Audition, which I love. This is my now favorite podcast editor. I don't record in the software, but my goodness, absolutely love editing in Audition for sure. Nice. Red Giant software, 25%. That's how I've almost bought it several times. They always go on those sales. So you definitely want to wait for those sales. And the pluralized stuff, I have that from a long time ago, before it was Red Giant. All right, so here is my entire first track of audio. I recorded 2 different clips. And the very first thing I'm going to do, well, actually, very first, you see these spikes in the audio, and in fact, it's probably a clapping. Actually, what is this? Let me see, hold on. That was just something random. Oh, someone closing a door. All right, because that's going to happen when you shoot video. Interruptions. What I would do here is I'm actually going to zoom in. You see these 2? These are only 2 real extreme spikes I have here. I'm going to zoom right into this. I'm going to take care of these 2 transients, these really large spikes, so it doesn't mess with other stuff I want to do. Just going to highlight it, and I am just going to drag that sucker down, and boom, gonzo. Let's just highlight a little bit more. Look, that's gone. Now I need to zoom back out to get to the other one and put my cursor over there on my playhead. I'm going to go to this. I don't need any of this audio, so I'm just going to take all that down. And that's going to help a little bit with the compression that it's going to happen in my next step. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to add a single band compressor. This is I just want to do some simple compression here. And you can see this entire file. I want this more even. I want less extremes in this case. I want to bring the lows and the highs closer together. And you can see here over here about -21 is kind of where I want to be. So really I've set this up. This is minus, let's see, 10 times, which is like a hard limiter on the ratio. My attack. Now, these aren't default settings, but they're pretty close. But this I'm going to change every time, the threshold, because obviously your audio is going to be a different threshold every time. And I'm going to just type in that -21, and I'm going to apply that, and it's going to do some compression. And now a little bit, it's evened that out. I like that. And obviously it's low. The audio is low. We zoom in, it's more uniform now. So that's a really simple pass of compression. Yeah, Audition. That's a nice, yeah, you can go in and you can just grab a little piece and do something to it very specifically. And this is in the waveform monitor. So you've got the multi-track, which I'm not going to click because I don't need a new multi-track project. That's where I do all my podcast editing. But I will bring individual files into the waveform and do some of this stuff. So lots of power in Audition. And you can see now why I'm going to take my audio out of Premiere and go to Audition. So the levels here are obviously not what we want them to be. Now, if you know anything about loudness normalization and loudness standards, I'm going to set my audio to that. And the key is to make it consistent in the edit. And then when I do export it out of Premiere, there's also a newer setting built into the of Premiere that lets you set loudness. So what this does is set it at a loudness level that humans actually hear at. And I've done like 3 or 4 hours of podcast interviews all about this. So it's not complex, but it is complex. Anyways, a lot of people will look at their audio, they'll play it, and you can see the meter going along, and they'll just try to crank up their audio. Like you're like, okay, look, I'll just crank this up, I'll normalize it, and now my peaks are at like -3. So, hey, -3, right? I'm good. No, that actually peak level has 0 to do with how we perceive audio. The loudness of it. That is only telling you that at any given moment, the peak is at 3 dB, but we don't hear that way. So loudness is a new standard. It's not new, but it's newer. It's coming to web more. It's coming to podcasts, whatever. But it's measured in how we hear. So I'm going to set to that spec. Whatever. There's a lot to it, but so instead of just normalizing this audio, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the match loudness section here in Audition. And I've got my audio here. We did some compression, so I did a little pre-treatment on that audio so I can help this process. And then I'm going to drag this down. Now, I I could do some EQ and all that stuff, but I want to bring this up. I really want to hear it. So what I'm gonna do a first pass here, and minus 19 would be what you want for mono. That's like a web standard. I'm gonna set this at minus 18 because I am gonna come out of Premiere again, and Premiere is gonna do some loudness normalization across the master track, but I want each of my individual files to also meet those standards. So I'm just gonna run that process here. It does it pretty quick here on this machine, at least. It's not a huge file anyways. It's only doing one. Boom. Now you can see it really brought that up a lot. And this looks almost, you have to be careful. I mean, it has a whole thing to do with peaks and max true peak and peak level. I mean, if we drill in here, this doesn't look as dramatic as, so you can't hear that, but sounds pretty good to me. So the level's nice. Now I'm not going to sit here and go through this because you can't hear it and bore you, but I would add an EQ to this. Let's see. I would add a parametric EQ, and this is set up for my last time, but this isn't bad. And I have to hear this to see. I would drop, you definitely always want to do some low pass or high pass and drop out some of this garbage that doesn't contain your voice. It's just room junk. Anything from about 80 is going to start cutting into the bass frequency of your voice. So if I set that at 100, I listen, that still sounds good. And I'm really cutting out here. This was for another project that was some not so good audio. But I might go to that lower mid-range. I'm making it really clear. It's taking out the mud. This microphone's really muddy. Taking out some of that mud, and then I've got the high shelf over here, and it's just a little, it looks more extreme, but it's only 2 dB of that sparkle, that really like crisp high-end stuff. That's a really basic EQ that I might do. I'm going to apply that in the waveform. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. It's going to affect that process I just ran. So I am going to run loudness normalization again. You can see everything shifted. When you go EQ, it's going to shift it out of, not out of phase, but I'm blanking on the term there. But what else? Now, in this case, my room with an open lav, tons of reverb. So I actually purchased, I rarely purchase plugins. I can almost do everything. But I have an effect here, and it is SPL Deverb. So it helps with some of that reverb in the room. So I would apply this. You can't hear it. Not a huge difference, but it's pretty impressive. It just takes off a little of that reverb edge. So I would apply that. That's really down and dirty there. And then for the purposes of this, now we have some issues here. I'm going to just, again, run this through the loudness process so that I can bring everything back to sane levels and make sure I'm not peaking anything. Now, this doesn't look as good as it should. It is sort of harsh down here, and I'd have to work on that some more. But honestly, the audio sounds really good. So I'm going to save that. I'm actually going to quit Audition, and we're going to come back here, and we're going to see. Watch this right here. Did it already change? Yeah, it doesn't actually look it changed. Did I? I guess it did change. Oh, there it is. Whoa. Okay. So it might need some more. It seems extreme. Let me hear it. Like, it sounds really good, actually. So usually the waveform doesn't look that extreme. We are zoomed out really far. So as I zoom in, not so crazy. But it's pushing it. It does sound really good. Now you can see the audio meter. We're not peaking. Pretty far from it, actually. So if you could hear that, to me, it sounds really good. So I like the way that sounds. As good as it's going to sound in this place, which is not a great place to record. Currently, I need to treat. You can see the back wall there. There's no treatment in this room. I did buy some huge blankets. Instagram, podcast helper on Instagram, you can see the acoustic blankets I did. Man, I should go to bed. I'm going to pay tomorrow. That's what coffee's for. So I'm going to save that. All right. We've done some color adjustment. We brought in a project. I didn't make any cuts outside of trimming off the front here and you can see the video. The audio goes longer before I turn it off, but all of that will be fixed in the actual cutting process. I did some audio post. I would go back and I'm going to need to do a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it took a long time just to get through that stuff. But hopefully some of that was helpful. That's some of the early stage stuff. I mean, there's this real stuff that you want to get in and do first. And I think I've learned over time, sometimes I get in to start cutting. I want to do those processes. My adjustment layer, I can't help but add color. I need to see it. I want to see what it's going to color grade like. I have to. I'm always just fascinated by that. Like, that's the problem is I don't feel like I can always shoot for a very specific look every time. It feels a little bit like a crapshoot every time. So, man, that's a weird freeze frame. Looks like I'm like out to kill somebody there. All right, let's freeze frames are the worst. But coming in and doing some adjustments, getting that audio synced and dialed, processed a little bit is great. So that's it. I think, let's see, is everything running fine? All right. Looks like it's still going. Check out the chat. 5th out of 4K of your sub count. The 5th? I don't know. What is that? They're the 5th subscriber ever? That'd be a long time ago. What volume should your audio be at most? I usually have a ceiling of minus 12 dB. Would you suggest going lower? Now, Sean, are you talking about when you record it? Because when I record it, minus 12 is fine, right? If my peaks, you can, sometimes I like to push it. It just depends on the setup. Sometimes pushing it to minus 6 if I know that that's enough headroom. But if you are anywhere around that minus 12, that generally comes in, and you're able to, if you have a clean noise floor, right? Your gear's not creating noise floor in your environment. You're going to be able to bring that up no problem, and it's going to sound fantastic. You could see how low mine, I mean, this was probably minus 18 or something, and I'd rather be around minus 12. So, yeah, I think you're good there, totally. You're working on a podcast looking for the audio since my audio recorder failed. Yeah, that sucks. Oh, all right. I think I could go to bed. This was fun. It's a little bit of work. Everything is set up. But Sean, I'm stoked. We got OBS working. There are things I want to add. I want to be able to make it so that you can hear the audio that I'm playing back in the edit itself. Obviously, that would help, so you could hear different things as they change. But let me save that. I'm just going to quit that, and I'm bringing back OBS here. But I'm going to log out. Hopefully, if you're watching, especially if you're watching this far, you're subbed to this channel, so that's probably not a problem. I think this is a live that I can actually leave up and be okay. I can rescale my video here. Not that I need to be seen at this resolution. But I'm digging the tungsten lights. I have a ring light, which is providing, and it's got these filters. And I've got tungsten. I don't ever usually use tungsten. So much daylight floods into here. But this is looking good. So I'm excited about that. Obviously, really noisy in the background because not a lot of lights going on. I added some contrast. OBS lets you do so much stuff. You can add a LUT in OBS. What? I can add a LUT in OBS. If my Logitech shot a flat profile, that might be actually really awesome. But yeah, anyways, now I'm just rambling on. All right. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone who tuned in. Subscribers, people finding this channel for the first time. If you are this deep, thank you so much. If you watched any of it, if you're not this deep, you're not hearing it. But thanks, everyone. I will see you next time. And as soon as I figure out how to get out of here, I'll just stop streaming. Although I did that earlier today, and I don't know if that's the best option. You can pause right here in the YouTube interface. All right, well, hopefully it archives. It should archive automatically. See you next time.